Hey guys, Marco the dog trainer here. Today we're going to do a quick video on the best dog bed for pit bulls. And I brought out my little pit mix Bosco here. He's about 45 pounds and he's going to be our model so you can kind of get a sense of reference for size of your pit bull versus the dog bed. Now, the bed that I'm going to recommend for really any of my clients, but specifically for clients with pit bulls, is going to be the Amazon Basics elevated cooling bed. And that's what I've got set up here. Now, this is the extra large model, which might seem a little big for a little guy. And in a little bit, I'll explain why I like the extra large for him specifically. But what I'll do is in the video description, I'll put links to the 4 different sizes that they offer, so that way you can check out whatever one fits your pit bull the best. Now, as far as the reasons why I like this bed, the first thing is that it's very, very inexpensive. If you're looking at like orthopedic or foam type beds, they're easily going to be double the cost of this. So I'm not going to say that this is the fanciest bed in the world. I mean, it is pretty basic, but it definitely suits your needs of a dog bed without breaking the bank, okay? Now, the second thing is going to be the cooling aspect. Now, most pit bulls, with like a really thin fur, we're not that worried about them overheating that often on beds. Most people have that problem with like shepherds or doodles or dogs more like that. But a pit bull, Bosco's a little bit older now, but back when he used to be a wild man, he would play fetch until his heart was like about to explode. So there were times that when we were done playing fetch and I'd bring him in, he was very hot. So I like to use this bed as a place for him to kind of chill out and relax, to kind of bring that heart rate down and bring his temperature back down. So the cooling bed, these elevated beds, because there's a gap between the bed and the floor, it allows for kind of cool air to come underneath and come up. But now, like I said, the majority of the time our pit bulls on a bed, they're probably not going to be overheating. So the thing that I like about this type of bed, and this is actually why I get the extra large for him specifically, is that, he really likes cushion. So he always will find like a little rag, like if I have a cleaning rag on the floor, he'll go and like lay on it or try to get his whole body on it. So I know a lot of pit bulls tend to be that way. So what I'll do with the extra large bed is I'll take like a dog blanket and I'll fold it in half or bunch it up and I put it on half the bed. So anytime that he's kind of cold and wants that extra cushion, he'll kind of bunch it up and kind of curl up on it just the way he is in this video. And then if he's getting hot or we just got done playing fetch, he kind of pushes it to the side and he lays on the more ventilated side. And I've seen some people even put this bed over an air conditioning vent, so there's like constant cold air. Yeah, so I kind of like that we can have a lot of different options as far as like cushion and cooling with this type of bed. Okay, now the next thing that I like is how easy these beds are to clean and maintain. Now, pit bulls, almost all the ones that I've worked with, they're very prone to allergies. Now, Bosco specifically has a very sensitive stomach, so he throws up like way more frequently than any other dog that I have. So for him, back when I used to use the foam and fabric beds a little more frequently, he would throw up on it and it would be almost impossible to get that out of the foam. Now, again, you could take the case off and throw it in the wash, and you could try your best to kind of clean the foam. But after a dog gets sick on their bed, like a foam bed, it's almost impossible to restore it back to its initial state. So this type of bed, if he throws up on the blanket, that's super easy. I can just throw that in the wash, and blankets are very durable, very easy to clean. Same thing, a lot of pit bulls, they kind of get the Frito smelling paws. So if the blanket's starting to smell like dog, you can throw that in the wash once a week. Very, very easy. If he happens to throw up or get sick on this bed, there's nothing absorbent. There's no foam. There's no fabric. So this is really easy to clean. So if it was a really bad accident, you could just take it outside and hose it first. But more times than not, you can just spray it with disinfectant and wipe it down, and it's going to be totally fine. And then the last thing we'll talk about is training, how this bed is related to training. So if we were working with like a puppy pit bull that tends to be really mouthy and a little wild, they tend to want to chew on their bed. So fabric beds are obviously really easy to start ripping apart and start pulling the fabric out, and they really enjoy that. It's like a giant chew toy. Where this bed, it's not that it's entirely chew proof, but it's a lot more chew proof than fabric alternatives. So, so this is going to work really well for like really destructive dogs and you know, puppies and things more like that. And then the last thing is that in my training, we're really, really big on teaching dogs to lay down and stay on a bed. So if they're going to be on this bed for a long time, I want them to be able to be comfortable from a temperature perspective. And for some puppies and dogs that are struggling with the concept of staying on the bed, I think that the elevated bed can help them connect those dots a little faster because they have to physically step down to get off of it. So I just think it helps with some dogs. You don't necessarily need it for place or spot training, but it can be helpful. So those are really all the main reasons why I like this type of bed for my pit bull and the pit bulls that I work with. So why don't we take this apart so I can show you what it's like to put it back together, and then we'll wrap up the video from there. Okay, guys, so this is for the most part what it looks like when everything is taken apart. You know, if you lay everything out when you get it out of the box. Now, the only thing I didn't do is I just left this piece in just because it's a little redundant and I don't want this video to be longer than what it needs to be. But I just left this side in because we're going to be showing you what it looks like when we put that one together. Okay, now in the box, it's going to come with a tool that you can use to put this thing together so you don't need to go out and buy anything. Now, the first step is going to be putting all the different poles in. Okay, so the longest poles are going to be in the front and back. Okay, and then the shorter poles are going to be more lengthwise. And once you kind of get that pushed in, then we're going to be putting these in. Now, the one thing you have to be careful of with this is that you'll see one side has a little bit of like an indent in it. Okay, I'll bring it a little closer so you can see. Okay, this little indented piece should be facing out. Okay, so when you put it in, just make sure that the indented side is facing away from the bed. Okay, and then there's also a little bit of like an arc on this horizontal pole that will line up with the shape of the inside of this piece. Okay. And I'm going to start by just using my fingers, and I'll probably tighten everything once I get the whole bed kind of put together. Okay. Again, making sure that the little indented piece is facing out. I think the first few times I put this together, I did it backwards and had to redo the whole thing. Okay. All right, and then like I said at the beginning of the video, the other side I just left put together. So that is going to be a little bit faster for me to show you how to put this thing together. And pretty much all the different sizes have the same, very, very similar assembly. The biggest bed, this extra large one, does have one extra component to it that the other ones do not have. Okay, and I'll show you guys that here in a second. Okay, so now that I've got the bulk of it put together, now I'm going to go through and tighten these with the wrench. Because the first time I did it, I was trying to tighten them all like one at a time as I was putting it together, and it just kind of throws things out of whack a little bit. So that's why I recommend only kind of half screwing them first until everything's put together, and then go through and tighten everything. And something I did not point out earlier in the video is that you can actually get a green version of this. So for whatever reason you prefer that, you can definitely do that. These light gray kind of gets stained a little bit from the Georgia red clay. So the green might have worked a little better if I was worried about that, but I don't really care about that kind of stuff. Now, if this were any of the smaller models, that would pretty much be it. But the extra large model comes with this extra piece here. Okay, that's just an extra, like an added support. Okay, so basically we just put these on. And this is going to go underneath in the middle. This part can be a little bit tricky. Actually, so we're going to lock this in on one side. Then we're going to lock it in on this side. And that is pretty much everything you need to know about the elevated or the Amazon Basic elevated cooling dog bed. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.